Don't get it twisted. Ronnie's going to make it do what it do. Hello and welcome to the Results of Ronnie podcast series. I am your host, Ronnie Walker, master coach of exceptional dating, relationships, and sex. And today, we're going to cover why do you keep ignoring the bad signs in dating? And I'm going to do my best to make sure that I keep it as balanced as possible because this is something that is usually directed at women. But make no mistake about it, men fall into this trap too. Today's episode is brought to you by Balance with Diana J on YouTube and Facebook. An incredible show on relationships, the spiritual spaces in relationship, and how it plays into the greater space of relationship. Look for her new season coming up soon on YouTube with the host, Diana Joseph. And also, dating discussions with Yashika and Ronnie, or dating discussions with Ronnie and Yashika. Another wonderful show that's on YouTube, Instagram, and on Facebook, speaking a male and female perspective in dating, relationships, and sex. So, why do you keep ignoring the bad signs in dating? A number of reasons. But first, let's talk about what most people commonly refer to as red flags. Which are the same thing as bad signs, but because everyone likes to use the word red flags, let's just go with that. So what are some of those red flags? Well, first of all, what I'm going to do first is I am going to start with you. So why are you a red flag? Well, for a number of reasons. Many of you are now coming out of a relationship that didn't end in the way you hoped, if it was to end. Now, of course, no one wants a relationship to end, but let's be honest. In admitted relationships, they don't end amicably. It's not a mutual space where people say, look, you know what? I realize that we're not heading in the same directions or we're not compatible, and the partner agrees and you shake hands and you wish each other well on your future prospects of meeting someone. Usually someone ends it. The other one is curious as to why. And then it ends and it gets ugly. And instead of taking some time to assess what happened, whether you believe you played some part of it or didn't, you're going back in there in not the best headspace. And sometimes to get you there, it may take some time to yourself. It may take some therapy. It may take some coaching. It may take them both. But if there's one thing that I've always stood on in my coaching when it comes to dating and relationships, but more so dating, is that I've always approached it from a self-development space. You have to start with you. And this is where a lot of my life coaching comes in. Because I really need to know if we're talking about making sure you have the mindset for that business you're looking to start, or school, or any aspects where you're looking to grow in your life's journey. Well, it's really no different when you're looking to include someone in your life for the rest of your life. You really need to be in the right headspace. And if you're not, then really you've become a red flag because you've taken the pain which there are lessons in that pain. And if you haven't learned that lesson, then what you end up doing is you taking that hurt you into this new relationship. And this person could have been worlds better than the previous one. It doesn't necessarily mean the last person was bad. They were just not for you. So now you're in this new situation where it blows up. And so now 2 losses, no wins. And it becomes this vicious circle where now you know something's wrong, where you spend time convincing yourself and others that it has nothing to do with you, it's everybody else. And you see it all the time online. These men and women, for warning each, all their friends, family, whoever will listen to them or read their posts or articles or blogs about these bad men, these bad women, when really they are the common denominator, themselves are the common denominator in what is going wrong in this relationship or in the relationship that they, tried to have. So you really need to work on yourself and really be honest about yourself that are you really in the right mental space to go into another relationship? And if not, then just be honest about it. There's nothing wrong with taking yourself out of the market, pulling down that profile online and moving, just working on yourself. Now, that doesn't mean you close off everybody because let's face it, one of the things that add meaning to life is the relationships that you maintain. So that when you enter back into the space of dating, you have a much better outlook. You may not be as intense. You may not be bitter. You've learned the lessons from your past experience, and you're going to use that in strengthening your discernment towards vetting someone else. What's another red flag? Your family and friends. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't family and friends that have your best, what they believe is your best interest at heart. But the truth is, there are those who don't. There are those who are miserable. And as we all know, misery enjoys company. And this is something you have to be very, very keen on. Because again, if you haven't done any work on yourself, and then you're listening to these friends and family, then of course your confirmation bias kicks in and you think that everything that they say is the absolute truth. So now you have you who haven't done any work on yourself, and you have a bunch of family and friends who haven't done any work on themselves that they need to do as well. And so it becomes all women are jacked up or all men are jacked up. And what normally happens over 1 or 2 holidays then happens to the birthdays, and then it happens to 2, 3, 5 years later, and you're still alone because you're too busy listening to other red flags. So make sure if you have those friends and family who, for whatever reason, want to impose their quote unquote advice is what you should not do, listen, nod your head, and step back from it and let it go. If they're not providing any practical advice or thoughts or experiences that can help you become better, a better version of you, then really it is a red flag. What's another red flag? Your online community. If there's one thing I've learned about media, and they always say that, even bad news is good news. Drama creates ratings. There's a book, even the magazines, it creates drama. It really jacks up one's self-esteem, more so women than it is men in these spaces. But it's really sad where they create headlines, clickbait, all this manipulation, online manipulation, to really keep you in a space of not growing. Now, to be fair, there are spaces that are out there showing people how to become a better version of themselves. Well, my platform is one of them. So you go to realresultswithronnie.com. You go to datingdiscussions.com and speak to me and Yashika. You go to official Ronnie Walk on Instagram and listen to some of the snippets. You go to MrRelationshipMan.com on YouTube and listen to my podcast. I provide the consultation. I provide the coaching, relationship, sex, life coaching that's going to put you in a direction, become a better you. There are places that are out there that want you to grow. But again, there are many places that want to keep you in a state of perpetual self-doubt. These are red flags, as well as some of the people that you have on your friends list on whatever platforms that you listen to or read about. More miserable people that are coming from a bitter place under the guise of they're just trying to keep you on your toes or make you aware, or that whole "I don't need to hear this but" bullshit. When they know they know damn well who they wanted to hear, who they want to hear. And some of them are just wasting their time trying to reach out to men and women and trying to get them to see them. They're looking for some form of validation. So you really have to take the time to discern yourself of really what is helping you on this journey to meeting someone, and who's just looking for someone to vent to, someone who wants you to keep them company. But the truth is, many do listen to these red flags, these bad signs. And so the question of the podcast is why? Well, I'm just going to throw out a few thoughts and let's just see if it rings a bell. Let's see if it moves you. And again, you can reach out to me at resultswithronnie@gmail.com. That's resultswithronnie@gmail.com. And let me know what you think. If there's something that you feel I need to cover or go over. I want you to be better. But before we can talk about the direction, we need to know why you are where you are in the space of dating. Especially if you're ignoring the bad signs and you're repeating yourself over and over and over, stuck on stupid. Or the very definition of insanity, where you're repeating the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So again, why do you ignore it? Well, for one reason, and let's be honest, many of you are lazy. You don't want to put in the work. So you deflect. You put up coping mechanisms where you go out there and express all these thoughts of what everybody else needs to do. On top of which, you're proclaiming so hard and so often, and with such passion and vigor of what you're not going to do. As if for you, you have the sense of entitlement and that there's no work expected on your part to meet someone. And if you do, to maintain a dating space, a relationship space. You're just lazy. Fear of rejection, fear of it not working out again. So you're out there looking for someone, but yet you're not sure you want to be out there. So you kind of, in short, half-assing it. And there's ways it shows where you're half-assing it, from the way you're dressing, from the posts that you make on the different internet platforms, or just in the conversations with men and women. Many of you are lazy, and that's the God's honest truth. Trust me, I've spoken to my share of them. And many of them, thank God, they admit it. And many at the same time will deny it. Tooth and nail. I mean, they go down fighting until after a few intentional questions that they reluctantly end up answering, they says, okay, Ron, I get it. I'm lazy. Why? Why do you ignore the red flags? Why do you ignore the bad signs? Well, another reason is you're dating at the level of your self-esteem. Many of you don't believe you're worthy of meeting the person you really want to meet. Because you know that takes work. Or you have some challenges within yourself. So maybe at some point, shooting your shot at a particular person, flirting, making a hint at said someone, and it didn't work out. And after a while, let's face it, it does play with your self-worth. And I can assure you that if you don't have a good self-worth about yourself, then, listen, there may be others that disagree. But if you feel that this is you, just pull yourself out of the dating market and reach out to me and let's get you some work done so we can get you back in that space to avoid another breakup. You have to feel that you're worthy of the person that you want in your life. Again, and I'm going to keep repeating this podcast after podcast, you have to start with you. So you want to make sure that your self-esteem is high so that you can go out there with the confidence to back it up. So that when someone's asking you or when you choose to go forward to meet that particular woman, that she sees it, that this is a man who's confident. This is a man who's sure of himself. This is a man who has a vision and direction. And if everything else aligns, I can see myself with this man. And the same with the woman. Because if it, by some chance you run into some knucklehead, he'll know automatically through your confidence and high self-esteem that he can pull the okie doke on you. And he'll go the opposite direction. And there you've saved yourself a good 2 weeks, 6 months, 2 years of misery in your life. Another reason you ignore the bad signs, red flags, is because you really haven't had a good role model or example of a healthy relationship. And of course, that then lends itself to maybe why your self-esteem is what it is. But many of you have had some horrific examples of what a quote unquote real man or good man is, or a good woman, a real woman. I'm using both because some people say good woman and real woman. But someone who is going to be a part of your life with a vision and a purpose, who is secure in the individual. I mean, they are a secure individual and they know they add value to your life. So it's not a 50-50, it's a 100%, 100% in terms of where they are mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. There are many men and women who haven't had that. And again, this is when we're going back to looking into therapy, looking into some coaching. And again, possibly both. So because of these 3 reasons that I listed, these could be some reasons as to why you're ignoring the bad signs. But let me add a 4th one here. And I made this a mention in a post. Many of you incredible, exceptional men and women are too busy wasting your damn time trying to change a man or woman into who you want them to be, even though they've made it clear, abundantly clear, that they are not the one. Some of these men have told you, ladies, I'm not looking for anything serious. I just want to see where this goes. I'm not really ready to settle down and get married again. I have trust issues. And you know what some women will hear? That if you put up with my BS long enough, and I see that you put up with it and gone through all of this struggle with me, this struggle of, that eventually I'll turn around and I'll be that incredible man. And so many of you women out here playing last woman standing. and you're wasting your damn time. And here's the sad part. Then what you end up doing once you find out is the breakup happens. Either you break up with him or he breaks up with you, and then you're even twice a million times more pissed because he did it first. And then you go on this scorched earth tour of how all men are jacked up. They're a waste of time. They're no good. There are no good men left. When in fact, doing some self-reflection, you realize that you literally blew past every single red flag that he was waving in front of your face. And here's the other thing. Sometimes it's your family and friends who are telling you, laying out as to why this is a waste of your time. And yet those well-intended family and friends, you ignore those. And all your efforts that now, in terms of you spending and wasting your time trying to change this man, or now that it's over, you are sitting up here on social media profiles and parties or whatever, being Mrs. Miserable, the man that you were meant to be with is looking at you saying all this. And instead of approaching you, he's going to leave you to hell alone because he realizes that you're definitely not in a space. And maybe by the time you've come around, he's met someone. And does this happen to men? Absolutely. I see so many men get wrapped up in a woman because of her looks, because of what she does, and of course the sex, that you ignore the signs, as I said, the signs could be as big as Godzilla. And that man would ignore every one of those flags. Won't listen to his homies, or from north, his homeboys, his guys, the fellas, in the between the games, and explaining to him, like, what do you see in this woman? This woman is using you. She's draining you emotionally, physically, and in many cases financially. But yet he just feels that if he's going to be the last man standing, he's going to be every other guy that's out there that's going after her because he's the one. When everything she said and does, saying that I'm not that guy and I don't want to be that. I'm not that woman, I'm sorry, and I don't want to be that woman. So you get hurt because she ends it, or you wise up and you end it. And now you're on the scorched earth tour, telling everybody how these women ain't loyal. All these B's and A's, and you can't do this, you can't turn them into this, you can't turn them into that. When that was never your job to begin in the first place. It was not your job to do that. Whereas a little self-reflection, a little listening to those who really care about you, would have revealed that, you know what, she's not the one, and you move on. So this is just a few examples as to why you avoid the red flags while dating. Now, of course, I can come up with more, and I'm sure there's some examples that many of you have done. I can tell you from my personal experience, there are times when I've been in relationships or dating, and there's some things that I thought would itself change. Not that I could change them, but just know that I believed that they were in the right direction of changing. But then I realized over time, I'm like, I don't think that work is being done. And so I ended up paying the price. I had to take that L. And not the L in terms of a loss, the L in terms of a lesson. But the one great thing I can say, if I may pat myself on the back, as I made that mistake more than once, is that I never hated them or women for that. I own my part in that, and I moved on. I wish them well. And there are times I've even reached out to say, hey, how's it going? never got a reply back, and that's okay. I hoped and prayed that at some point they realize that in order for them to meet someone that they claim that they're looking for, that they would have to change and they would have to do the work on themselves. But meanwhile, I didn't wait to see if that was ever going to happen because I took that time and energy to work on me. So what I'm sharing with you, I share from professional as well as personal experience. So I know what it's like. And I hope that if this is something that you are dealing with currently, that for somehow, some way, that the light bulb goes on and you realize that you're in a space where it's not the best space of your time. And you take this time to separate yourself from said situation and you do a little work on yourself so that you can put yourself mentally, physically, financially, spiritually in the position that you need mentally, to meet that person. So I hope this adds some value to what you're going through now. And again, feel free to reach out at resultswithronnie@gmail.com. That's resultswithronnie@gmail.com. You can listen to this podcast at mrrelationshipman.com and also look to a future show of dating discussions with Ronnie and Yashika. And know that I want you to win in this space of relationships, dating, and of course, sex. I hope that is going on to the rest of the year and for those that are celebrating birthdays, that these are defining moments in your journey and hoping that the light comes on or that you have that aha moment to say, hey, you know what? This is not for me. My name is Ronnie Walker, your host of the Results with Ronnie podcast series. I am the master coach of exceptional dating, relationships, and sex. And I thank you for tuning in. I look forward to the next show. I want to thank you as well for your support. And I will be talking to you again soon. Have a wonderful evening, morning, or afternoon, or whatever time of day or night you're listening to my voice. Thank you. And I wish you all well in your journey of dating, relationships, and sex. Take care.